This is Joe Weitzel submitting my video entry for the Literary Guild in the competition for Poet Laureate of Lancaster County. And I'm recording this video on my iPhone from sunny Stevens, Pennsylvania, in northern Lancaster County. And I grew up in Lancaster City most of my life, so I know just about every alleyway there. Let's start off with a poem that I wrote for my good friend Mike Heberlein, who recently passed, owner of the Lancaster Art Gallery. It's called Suffer Not the Trail Unmarked. I lost my way and suffered not the trail I left unmarked. My return was not a gift to give until I found a voice. So crowded world, until my first step into darkened wood. And then this lush inward, as a rift would separate and cut one continent from another, and the river would cease and fall. A murder of crows above me, jackdaws, golden black from sliced sun. My sense stifled deaf to only vision and the stillness of movement. Branch rustle leaf to drizzle seed and pollination's early frost. And then the russet bird song heard every day in our impermanence. I wrote this next poem at the Prince Street Cafe in Lancaster. It's called Heretics. With great regret, I am here to confess that most of my life was invented by a heretic and the god he proclaimed me to be. Just happened to be inspired by a duck bending water by natural light. And now that's not to say I haven't done some incredible tricks with light. And once I walked on water, shallow rocks invisible to her naked eye. So this disciple started taking me seriously and invented a religion based on a wink. Before you get excited, I'm not referencing current deities' mainstream long hairs. No, can I help it if one heretic decided I could save the world from the Mayan calendar? I can't sneeze without this guy bringing me a tissue and saying Chichen Itza. He wanted $1 for a haircut, and since then, I can't get rid of him. Just when I felt like I could be real again. He starts in with his doomsday pepper spray. Right in my face, he tries it. Just to see if I could perform another miracle. What a nutcase. I wrote this in Stevens, Pennsylvania. This is called When a Horse Goes Down. Witnessed the burial of a horse. The sparrow falls, you brush it down to gutter side, and let the sweeper crush the bones to post and grind. The woodman saw, can fell a tree and cut it up to haul, a way for burning or to build, but nothing moves again. But when a horse goes down, you dig a trench and bury her remains exactly where her last breath drained to ground. My brother died in France, and somehow found himself in Maine. The gun saluted every color in the sky, past blue and gray. The roses swept away by random wind to wither without sound. The fires in the barrels tethered smoke that choked the wound around. But when a horse goes down, you dig a trench and bury her remains exactly where her last breath drained to ground. Perhaps the weight of haul, the heavier the heart, dictates destination's fall. The lorry straps can hold just so much loss before the buckles brace. But all of that is just apology to labor lost in love. For I have carried way from bigger burdens to a place that none have found. But when a horse goes down, you dig a trench and bury her remains exactly where her last breath drained to ground. I wrote this next poem on Grant Street in Lancaster. I witnessed a crowd of sparrows taking a dust bath. This is called Early Morning Sparrows. The crown of sparrow-raised dirt, dry side city house. They flapped their elfin wings and caused a ruckus. Some screeching and wrestling till they flew speckled against the red brick row, the art gallery, and the brothel. The dust from their appointed early morning bath still lingered as I passed through the storm to light. Each brown chick returned when I went past, and flight from over wire, swinging from their takeoff, caused spark. I turned around to see the spurger chip a passerine and found that thought has nothing else to do but create a stir and why. Last night's rain just dripping from the loosened gutter spout, gully to the dirt, dust inch to line and abolished dry. The pole transformer buzzed and exhaled a momentary groan, then stopped. The cackle cry disrupted time and skippered wing like delicate linen on the line till wind just flittered too blue. And then the golden maple, limp from drought, came alive with birds. This next poem is about a chicken farm in Stevens. I counted 50 chickens in the frozen field and 50 puffs of air. Brown hens dickering to soft earth free of ice, and open sun, the fawn earth dripping from their yellow beaks, while feathered neck-turns jerking back to ground and fallow. Several teetered to a gray rock and spangled silver drops of water from the pocket spill collected in the sulcus of a ridge made smooth from the winter moon's ochre suckle. This morning sun has vanished to a pallid line. One bird too close to fence disentangles claw and struggles past the squawk and scratch, elevates to sudden whim. As one flock tarries flight and levels near the berry's red breath vine, the truck claps tailgate down and backs in tight against the fence. She rounds them one by one into wire cab, my herding dog to please me, scratched and nicked but hardy, little worse for wear. I counted 50 chickens in the frozen field and 50 puffs of air. This next poem is about a wedding in 1963. The barrel falls over water into the beauty you discovered near the borders of Buffalo on the American southern side. We had bright yellow raincoats and a red and white sparkler, spitting fire into the white foam of July and circumstance. Still in your satin, and I just barely loosened from my tie. We glistened champagne and toasted the country of our marriage. The purple dusk bled blue twilight, and the first blast of firework held low over the ghost rise of the northern light's brightest star. The barge shifted, and you lost your balance into my open chest. How often we embrace this way, just riding tide and finding way. This evening in Oxford, the yellow jackets are in a singing mood, and the river is gracious with a rising song and a southern fog. This is written about a Lancaster native who was burned in a fire. I'm calling this poem Mr. Murray and the Rule of Nines, and it is based on my medical background and experience from all the hospitals I've worked in the city. Queen Street bustled with the sound of outdoor cafes, and the artifacts just piled up in the corner for the stars, the try-on set, deco, and the Rule of Nines for everybody's part. The reading script past dark involved a fire in the studio apartment. The owner of the props fell asleep to smoke and mirrors. Every night the attic cot laid waste to disconnect the wires of his mind. The door close, bell ring. Above the cantor sing whistled shut, and the movie set shut down below the stacks of jeans and jewelry in the cases by his bed. After all is said and done, the formula applies to fluid and resuscitation. The head and arms require banding to the ligament and sinew. 18% arms and legs are like the linings of a game before the darkness flips a light. Everything changes when the electricians struggle to keep up with the fashion of the spark. But I saw you last night in cloth, still smiling, and perfectly standing on your own. I wrote another poem about a horse that I witnessed up here in Stevens. It's called The Bleeding Horse. The black and white palominos reared as they entered the road from the dirt path. In the valley, the farm spread across the sun-filled meadows like a lava flow. The two girls pulled the reins as I slowed, and the horses stammered and pouted. The snout spray from the shutter snort wet my windshield like a mist cloud rolling in across the mountains to the west, and my wipers blurred the tinted glass. Their brothers snapped a corn silk across the back of a plow horse, and the steel gripped moist brown dirt to furrow seed as the yellow-gray sky gave way to rain. I parked shoulder to harness and watched as the brim of their hats dipped green. The low bramble caught the brow of the mare as she struggled to pull the chain. The girls came back to the ringing bell and dismounted fair to stirrup and bridle. Each led the geldings to shelter and feed, and ran to the fields with water and bread. The cut on the brow was scarlet like wild berries growing wild and rising between the bark of an oak standing lone in the middle of fields lush with tobacco and harvested grain. I drove a little ways toward town and stopped on a bridge that crossed over trains. I got out of my car and leaned over a rail as I heard the engine of a carrier freight. As quickly as storm that blackens a cloud of a summer day, the smoke from the stack surrounded my eyes and passed below me, rumbling and shaking toward the neighboring farms. From a distance I heard the horses whinny, and a crack of thunder ended the rains. This is a poem called Forgetting, about a gentleman who had Alzheimer's and was recently in the paper and got lost in his farm and wasn't found in the winter until too late. Called Forgetting. Kilheffer circled his property before sitting down in a field on his farm. The wind blew hard and the ice came down. The snow covered the eaves on the tobacco barn. 3/4 mile from his front door swing, he drew his knees to his chest and slept. He sheltered his head and crippled his wing and waited for memory's light to reveal the path to home, the stony glen, the pasture reel that the crows danced to on a summer's yellow night. The call from his wife to come inside, the work is done, the dancing of shivering blue, the quivering dreams of the young. The sun of this crystalline winter sky morning awakened to crunch and the footfall of vigilant men. The birches shook snow from the limbs, and the wind of a curtainy, shadowy white remained, the place where Kilheffer slept. Thank you for letting me read this brief sample of my poetry, which is now 40 years and counting that I've been writing. And I hope that you find your poet laureate, and I hope it's me. Thank you.